What if the woman you trust to protect your child is the very one hiding a past that could destroy everything you love? The mansion stood silent against the dim evening sky, its windows glowing faintly like watchful eyes. Inside, Ethan Blackwell the city. As most feared yet admired billionaire paced the marble floor with his daughter, as soft laughter echoing from upstairs. Since his wife's sudden death, raising little Emily had been the only battle he couldn't master. Deals, companies, empires, those he conquered easily. But a 7-year-old girl with night terrors and a hunger for motherly warmth, that was a challenge he was helpless against. When the agency sent Clara Evans, he didn't expect much. Another nanny, another temporary solution. But the moment she stepped through the heavy oak doors, something shifted. Her presence was quiet yet commanding, her eyes carrying a sorrow too deep for someone so young. She bent down to Emily's level, whispering something that made the little girl giggle, a sound Ethan hadn't heard in months. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt relief. But there was something else too, a flicker. A strange pull toward this woman whose smile seemed like a shield and whose silence spoke louder than words. As days passed, Clara settled into the household with ease. She knew Emily's fears before the child voiced them. She cooked meals with a gentleness that reminded Ethan of the warmth he had long buried. Yet at night, when the halls were still, Ethan would find Clara staring out the window, her hands trembling as though fighting memories only she could see. Ethan's instincts, honed by years of ruthless business, whispered to him, "She's hiding something." But what? And why did it matter so much to him? Every secret leaves a shadow, and in Clara's eyes, Ethan could see an entire storm she refused to let out. Ethan tried to keep his distance. She was just a nanny, after all, a temporary employee. But Clara's presence changed everything in the mansion. Emily clung to her as though she had known her forever, following her around the garden, laughing at bedtime stories, and even sleeping peacefully without the nightmares that once plagued her. It was as if Clara carried with her a magic no money could buy. Still, Ethan noticed the cracks. Sometimes Clara would jump at sudden noises, her eyes darting toward the door as if expecting someone to burst through. Other times, when she thought no one was watching, she would clutch a silver locket around her neck with shaking hands. Ethan couldn't help but wonder what was locked inside, not just the locket, but in her soul. One night after putting Emily to bed, Ethan found Clara in the library. She stood by the fireplace, staring into the flames, as though they carried ghosts only she could see. The light painted her face in sorrow, yet it was a sorrow he wanted to understand. "You take care of Emily like she's your own," Ethan said, his voice breaking the silence. Clara turned, startled. "She deserves love, Mr. Blackwell. Every child does." "And what about you?" Ethan asked. "Do you?" Her lips parted slightly as though she wanted to answer, but instead she whispered, "Some people don't get that luxury." Then she excused herself, leaving Ethan with 1,000 questions he couldn't shake off. Over the next weeks, Ethan's curiosity grew into something more dangerous: attachment. He found himself watching her when she braided Emily's hair, listening when her soft laughter filled the kitchen, and feeling his chest tighten when she brushed past him in the hallway. Clara was becoming more than a nanny. She was becoming his undoing. But then came the first sign of danger. One evening, while Ethan was hosting a business dinner, Clara answered a call in the kitchen. Emily had been asleep, and Clara thought no one would hear. But Ethan, walking in for a glass of water, caught the trembling fear in her voice. "I told you never to call me here," Clara whispered harshly into the phone. "If he finds out, everything will be ruined. I can't risk Emily's safety, or mine." Ethan froze in the shadows. His blood turned to ice. What was Clara hiding, and who was on the other end of that call? Sometimes love begins not with trust, but with a lie that refuses to stay buried. Ethan could hardly sleep that night. Clara's words on the phone replayed in his mind like a curse. I can't risk Emily's safety or mine. What danger was she talking about? And why was she, the quiet nanny who seemed so selfless, connected to such a threat? The next morning, Ethan confronted her indirectly. At breakfast, while Emily hummed happily over her pancakes, Ethan leaned forward. "Clara, I need to know something. Have you ever been in trouble before you came here?" Clara froze, the fork halfway to her lips. For a brief second, panic flashed across her face, but then she smiled faintly. "We've all been in trouble at some point, haven't we?" she replied softly, avoiding his gaze. That answer only deepened Ethan's unease. Later that week, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. He found Clara sitting in Emily's room, holding the little girl's hand as she slept. But in Clara's other hand was the silver locket, open this time. Inside was a faded photograph of Clara standing with a man Ethan didn't recognize. A man with cold, sharp eyes. "Who is he?" Ethan asked quietly from the doorway. Clara snapped the locket shut and gasped. "Shouldn't sneak up on people like that." "Then tell me," Ethan pressed, stepping closer. "Who's the man in that picture? Why do you look like you've seen a ghost every time the phone rings?" Her lips trembled. "It's none of your concern, Mr. Blackwell. You live under my roof. You care for my daughter. If you're hiding something that could put her in danger..." Her voice broke as she cut him off. "I would never hurt Emily." Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly brushed them away. "Please, don't ask me more. If I tell you the truth, you won't just fire me. You'll hate me." Ethan's heart twisted at her words. He wanted to push her further, but the sight of her tears stopped him. For the first time, he realized how fragile she was beneath her calm mask. That night, while lying in bed, Ethan admitted the truth to himself. He was falling for her. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was desire, longing, the need to protect her, no matter what she was hiding. And then, danger came knocking. The following weekend, while Ethan was away at a meeting, a stranger appeared at the mansion gates. He was tall, rugged, with the same cold. The past doesn't knock politely. It breaks down doors when it wants to be heard. The stranger stood outside the mansion, his shadow long under the evening sun. Clara froze when she saw him through the window. Her blood ran cold, and the color drained from her face. Emily tugged her sleeve innocently. "Clara, who's that man?" the little girl asked. Clara forced a smile, hiding the panic twisting inside her. "Just someone I used to know," she whispered. But her hands trembled as she shut the curtains quickly. Moments later, the doorbell rang. Clara's heart pounded. She opened the door just a crack and hissed, "You shouldn't be here." The man's smirk was cruel. "Still pretending you're someone else? Thought you could hide forever, Clara?" His voice dripped with menace. "Please, not here." "There's a child," Clara begged, but his eyes glinted. "Then maybe I should say hello to her. You wouldn't want your new boss finding out the truth, would you?" Clara's hands shook as she pushed the door shut, bolting it quickly. Her chest heaved, fear consuming her. This was the secret she had buried deep. The dangerous tie she had tried so hard to escape. When Ethan returned later that night, he noticed Clara's pale face and Emily's unusual clinginess. "What happened?" he demanded. Clara shook her head, refusing to speak. But Emily piped up innocently. A scary man came. Daddy. He made Clara sad. Ethan's blood boiled. He gently cupped Clara's face, forcing her to meet his eyes. Who was he? If you're in danger, I need to know. Finally, Clara broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He's my past, Ethan. The man in the locket. His name is Victor. I worked for him once. But I discovered things I wasn't supposed to. Illegal things. He threatened me. Told me if I ever spoke, he'd ruin me and anyone close to me. That's why I ran. That's why I hide. Ethan's jaw tightened. He pulled her into his arms, surprising them both. You should have told me sooner. You're not alone anymore. I won't let anyone hurt you or Emily. Clara sobbed against his chest, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel safe. But deep down, she knew Victor wouldn't give up so easily. That night, while Clara lay awake in fear, Ethan made a decision. He wasn't just going to protect her. He was going to fight for her. And as he watched Clara from across the room, he realized with painful clarity, somewhere between suspicion and secrets, he had fallen hopelessly in love with her. Sometimes love is tested not by what we say, but by what we are willing to fight for. The next morning, Ethan left early, telling Clara only that he had business to handle. For she worried as he kissed Emily's forehead and glanced at Clara longer than usual, as if memorizing her face. Later that day, the mansion grew silent. Emily played with her dolls, while Clara stood near the window, her nerves fraying. That's when she saw him, Victor, standing at the gate again, smiling like a predator. This time, he didn't wait. He walked straight up to the door and rang the bell, his presence bold, threatening. Clara froze. I was hoping I'd run into you, Ethan said, his voice steel. Victor smirked. So you're the new protector? Tell me, do you really know who she is, or what she's done? Clara's heart sank. She wanted to shout to stop this, but Ethan stepped forward, towering over Victor. I don't care about her past. What I care about is her future, and she's staying right here. Victor chuckled darkly. Brave words, but you can't protect her forever. Suddenly, two men appeared behind Victor, shadows of his criminal world. Clara gasped, pulling Emily close. Fear gripped her chest. This was the moment she always dreaded. But Ethan didn't waver. He clenched his fists, standing like a wall. You want her? You'll have to go through me. The tension thickened until the sound of sirens pierced the air. Police cars screeched to a halt outside the gates. Victor's smirk vanished, turned sharply toward Ethan. You, he hissed, realization dawning. Yes, Ethan said coldly. I called them last night. I know everything about you now. Your time is over. Victor cursed as the police swarmed the driveway. His men scattered, and within minutes, Victor was in handcuffs. Thrashing and yelling threats at Clara, she collapsed to her knees, holding Emily tight, her tears mixing with relief. When it was over, Ethan turned back. Clara rushed into his arms, trembling. Why did you do that? You risked everything. Ethan cupped her face gently. Because you're worth everything. Her lips parted, her eyes shimmering with emotions she could no longer hide. And in that fragile, burning moment, Clara leaned forward, closing the distance between them. The kiss was both forbidden and inevitable, two broken souls binding themselves together at last. Emily giggled softly from the corner. Does this mean Clara is staying forever? Ethan and Clara both smiled through their tears. He kissed Clara's forehead and whispered, "Forever." And as the evening sun bathed the mansion in golden light, Clara knew the truth. Her secret was no.